Reproduction by Haley Wingo. Sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is bringing forth a new living being through the combination of two different genetic material. There are multiple advantages to sexual reproduction, like genetic variation. Asexual reproduction only allows for DNA to be replicated with no change. Sexual reproduction allows different genetic combinations to exist. Another is positive genetic mutations. Under the classical view, selection depends more or less directly on mutation. Standing genetic variances is maintained by a balance between selection and mutation, and adaptation is fueled by new favorable mutations. The last is less likely to be extinct from diseases. Since there is more variation in genetics, a disease is less than likely to kill the entire species. There are a few negatives to sexual reproduction are genetic diseases. The genetic disease can come from different genes combining. It also can lower birth rates since it takes two different individuals to reproduce. Meiosis. During sexual reproduction, meiosis takes place. This is when a cell containing both parents' genes divides with the division of the contents of the nucleus that divides the chromosomes among gametes. Variations is introduced during meiosis as well as the gametes combine in fertilization. When the cells divide, they produce new compound of genes. This leads to new offspring who carry different traits than their parents as the genes are mixed together. So you can see right here in this photo, you have this one cell splitting into two and then splitting into four. And this is an actual image of that happening where the cells are splitting. Mendel. Mendel did an experiment involving the genetic characteristics of 30,000 pea plants. He identified there is a pattern to genetic traits. Mendel used hybridization by combining different true breeding plants with multiple traits. Seed colors is one characteristic you can follow by looking at Mendel's work, with yellow being dominant over green. In a pea plant, if you crossbreed a white to purple plant, you will end up with purple. Even though the phenotype is purple, the genotype is still white and purple from both parents. Genotype. In a pea plant, if you crossbreed a white to purple plant, you will end up with purple, even though the genotype is still white and purple from both parents. Genotype is genetics you can't see. It is what lies within the DNA. The phenotype would tell us that it had at least purple genes since that was the plant's color. White flower. If two purple flower plants produce a white flower with 1:3 ratio, this says the genotype of these parental plants were crossbred. The two purple flowers had been bred with at least one white flower each to produce white flowers when bred together. You cannot trust phenotype to know genotype. Take eye color, for example. A person with green eyes could have had two brown-eyed parents. Central dogma of molecular biology. All cells have the ability to produce a transcript of their genes from DNA to mRNA to protein. This is called the central dogma of molecular biology. Central dogma of molecular biology is where DNA gets copied to RNA, with one nucleotide being added to the mRNA strand for every complementary nucleotide read in the DNA strand. The translation to protein is more complex because groups of 3 mRNA nucleotides corresponds to one amino acid of the protein. Family trait. In my own family, there is a physical trait that makes some of the girls' toes look misshapen. This is a condition known as hammerhead toes, where at least one of the toes bend up and sideways. Both of my mom's grandmothers had this condition in my family. Today, my grandmother, my mother, and both of my sisters carry this trait. This is a clear indication of a phenotype that is carried through the generations. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. These are my 2 citations, and I hope this was informative. Thank you so much.